That should...
Is it working out?
Yeah. I'll get my cigarettes out here and you can just help yourself.
Oh, okay, thanks. It looked like something you like when you do an interview. It's sort of a natural thing to want to light up a cigarette.
Yeah, right. I hope you don't mind going over some of the stuff we talked about when we were having those beers and stuff.
No, yeah. Sure, anything. Yeah.
Well, Lenny, I think probably the best place to begin would be maybe to go right back to your old music hop days, because that's the first time I ever saw you on TV. That was probably the first real exposure that you had.
That's right. What was it, about 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
I worked on music hop for at least maybe a couple of years at least on there, with Ray St. Germain and all the gang.
Yeah.
Well, I started out as a country player. I started out as a country musician, I was playing in my dad's band, like his name is Hal Lone Pine. So, actually, I am still a country player, in a way, because I live in the country,
Yeah. Well, what kind of country stuff were you doing there? Like, were you doing traditional, like, bluegrass stuff and stuff like that, too? Or?
Well, in those days I was, But, like, now I was just kidding about being, like, a country player now, because I'm mostly a jazz player now.
Yeah.
But I still, but I like to mix in a little bit of country here and there, because I'll never, I'll always be a country player, because that's how I started it out,
Yeah.
And, even jazz music is country music, It comes from the same country.
Sure. Yeah. Did you start actually getting into jazz when you were doing the Music Hop series? Had you been into jazz at that time?
Yeah, like I was into jazz then, but I hadn't made any records then or anything, And I don't know, like I felt like, I'm always like, I feel that I'm always going to be at a stage where I'm learning and developing and learning things, and so I'll never really be at the point where I consider myself, look like this is it. I've reached my goal, so to speak. I don't think I'll ever really feel that way about it. You know, I'm always a student of music.
Yeah.
I always feel that way.
Well, right now, for example, you said you're kind of a student of music. Is there anybody in particular that you're studying or any form of music?
Well, right now, I would like to start listening to Stravinsky and stuff like that, and heavy classical music, because there's a lot to be learned there. There's an awful lot of music out. And, I love to listen to Indian music, too. I really love Indian music and that type of expression. And, I don't know, in all, I just like to listen to music, I like all the music, I think,
Well, your reputation now is probably being, one of the best jazz guitarists in the world, certainly the best in Canada. And you're playing with a rock and roll band now. How do you find that, Dr. Music?
Well, I'll tell you the truth, like, being a jazz player, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're always busy and always working, as a jazz player. Like, you have to do other things, too, on the side sometimes, Now, I enjoy working with Dr. Music, because I never had that kind of experience before. Like, I've never played with a large rock band, and there's some good cats in this band, they got a lot of good cats in the band. They got a lot, they have a lot of, there's Don Thompson on bass,
right.
He's a giant, and Terry Clarke on drums. And Bruce, like on trumpet, it's a good band,
Right.
It's a good band to be in. But naturally, I would rather play jazz,
Was this the first time you played with
Dr. Music?
Yeah, well, not necessarily with Dr. Music, but that type of music, kind of an R&B with horns and everything?
No, like, I had my first experience, like, when I came to Toronto about, about a couple years ago or so. And Doug Riley at the time, had a different band. and I forget what they were called now. Was it the Soul Searchers? Or something like that? We had Diane Brooks and the Soul Searchers, something like that. And I used to go on the road with them a bit, you know, and do some dance gigs, you know, like if I wasn't working.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into it, you know. And I find that today that they're mixing a lot of music together, like country and rock is mixed in together a lot now.
Sure, yeah.
And so when I play rock, like I usually play a bit of country with it, because it mixes in with rock very well.
Yeah.
So in this band, there's another guitar player, right? So it looked like a lot like the other guy is playing all his rock things, and I'm playing all my country things, and it works out good. You know?
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah. You know? It's a little too bad that a lot of the times we can't hear you playing. But,
well, unfortunately, I have a small amp on this trip. You know, I'd have to get a bigger amp.
Yeah. You're still playing Baldwin guitars too, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
You've been playing those for years, I guess, right from the start.
Well, I'll tell you how that all started, Holger. They came to me and said, you know, we'd like to have you play our guitars, and I said, well, okay, you know. So I started playing them, and that was it, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm a sort of an advertiser for them, you know. Like I play their guitar, and they figure it's going to help to sell the instrument. But I think they're going out of business, you know. You know, but not because their guitars are no good or anything like that. It's just that there's an awful lot of competition. You know, like when you look around today, there's an awful lot of guitars on the market, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, when did you decide to move from Winnipeg to Toronto? I guess it was quite a while ago.
Well, at least maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. Actually, I hadn't planned on moving. I was just going down there to do a gig. And I ran into a little girl. You know, well, not a little girl, a little lady. And it looked like she said, I'd like to be your manager, you know. And it looked like she was managing a few other people at the time. And so I said, well, all right, I'll think it over, you know. So, like, I moved to Toronto. You know, that was right after I cut my first album on RCA. But I miss Winnipeg, you know. I miss Winnipeg a lot of times because I grew up there, you know.
Yeah.
It's really nice to be back here in Edmonton too, you know. Yeah. I'm meeting a lot of old friends, and you know, and the audiences are very warm, really warm, you know. So and nice vibes and everything.
Excellent reviews too.
really, I was really surprised today to see that. I'll tell you. Yeah. I'm really happy about that.
Where did you actually? Are you a trained musician, or did you just start playing by ear?
No, I started playing by ear, you know, because like when I was working with my dance group, you know, it was country music, and country music is a by ear type of music, yeah. Right? So, you know, that's how I started. I listened to records a lot, you know. I would slow a record down, you know, like if I was listening to like on a flamenco record or something. Well, I would slow the record right down to 16 speed.
Yeah.
You know, and learn the licks like that. You know, learn the runs like that. Yeah.
Who are your favorite flamenco guitarists?
Well, there's one guy in particular that really knocks me out, and like his name is Sabicas.
Oh yeah.
I really dig the way he plays, yeah. You know. And you know, and of course all the other guys too are really great, but he's my main influence when it comes to flamenco playing. You know. And in jazz, I think that Bill Evans is one of the biggest influences I've ever had, you know.
And you played with him?
He's like a god to me, you know. Yeah. Well, when he was in like the Toronto, you know, like I went down to say hello to Bill, and like he invited me to come down and set in, so I did, you know, and I really had a ball, man. I was really honored, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of the greatest moments of my life. Because I consider him to be the master, you know, he's the master.
Yeah. Do you listen to any rock guitarists? Any in particular?
Yeah, I listen to Eric Clapton, and you know, I like Eric. I really dug like Hendrix. I think Hendrix is great.
Yeah.
You know, I think he came up with something really new and original in guitar playing. You know, it was a shame that the cat had to die young like that, because he had an awful lot to say. You know. and he just didn't have enough time to say it all.
He was getting into jazz too, I think, before he died.
Yeah, I think so.
In the Woodstock movie.
Yeah, like that's what he wanted to do. I think, like he wanted to get into some jazz.
When did? Oh, sorry.
Oh well, I was gonna say it's a funny thing, but say like in the commercial field today, like if you happen to make a hit or you become a star, well then you have to stay in that bag sometimes,
Yeah.
Because you make it in a certain bag, and if you really make it big, then you got to stay in that bag a lot of times, because like you might get a big crowd, and they all want to hear that way you sounded on the record. And this is one of the problems, in music today. Sometimes is that you can't, like you can't let yourself really change if you're
experiment or anything.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
So what I think it's best to do that right in the beginning,
Yeah. You're no longer with RCA now, and I guess you haven't signed with anybody yet. You're just kind of looking around.
Well, my contract is run out with RCA, and I decided not to stay with them, because they're a great big label. I think I'm more interested in a smaller label. I want to know the people that I'm working with, and I want like more of an intimate look like a relationship going.
Yeah.
I want to know that the people are really on my side and I'm on their side. So I'm looking around for something.
How much did you do for RCA? 2 albums?
Yeah, there was just the 2 albums. Yeah. I did one in Nashville and one at Shelley's Manhole. And I could have stayed with RCA, but the company is so big that you can get lost in the shuffle very easy.
Yeah. What was it like recording in Nashville? That must have been really a gas.
Well, it really was, because I hadn't been in that kind of environment for years.
Yeah.
I was in Winnipeg, and I was doing this and that and this and that, and all of a sudden I'm making a record in Nashville. And Atkins is down there, and I loved, I really dig the way that Atkins plays, like he's one of my, he's like a god to me too, So then when I was playing down there and he was in the studio, he was recording me, it made me a little nervous, but I really enjoyed it. I met a lot of nice folks, and one of these days I would like to record a country album.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would like to try something. I would like to record something that's got jazz overtones, but still country.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Because there's a big audience there. There's an awful, it's a big audience in country. But one of these days, if I can write a couple songs or something, I'd like to do an album, a country album.
Well, how long have you been singing now? Because until last night, I didn't realize that you were getting into that.
Well, I don't think I'm a real singer. I don't consider myself a real singer. But I like to try and sing what I would play. You see? Which is impossible sometimes because the human voice, there's no way you can really do that. But I like to try and sing like certain lines that are not usually sung. But I like to try and do that, and I haven't got a whole lot of power. I haven't got a big voice or anything, so I need like a good mic when I sing. I just try and sing in tune. If I can sing in tune, I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, that song you did last night, was that original? Did you write the lyrics to that?
No, I didn't write the lyrics to that one. That one is an old. It's an old song that's written by Merle Travis.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the guy that wrote that. Yeah.
It sounded kind of like a Mos Allison tune to me.
Yeah. Well, I changed it around a little bit. I changed it around a little bit.
Yeah.
Some people go to school trying to learn how to teach. See, but Merle used to do it more of a folk, like he was a folk player sort of thing.
Yeah.
See, so I like taking a lot of his songs and doing them that way.
When you first got to Toronto, did you start working with Don Thompson and Terry Clarke right away?
No, I didn't, because they weren't in town yet. They were still in Vancouver. I think that Terry Clarke was with the Fifth Dimension when I first moved there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I was working with Jerry Fuller. Hey, you know Jerry?
No.
Well, Jerry was in town at the time. I was working with him and with a bass player by the name of Billy Merle. Have you ever heard of Billy?
No, I don't think I have.
He's a Montreal bass player. And Don and Terry, like, I think they came to Toronto about a year ago now. And, like, we've been playing together ever since, every chance we get.
Yeah. They sure are fine players, you know.
Oh,
yeah.
You know.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, you know, the first time I saw you in Toronto was when you were playing bass with them.
That's right.
Which I couldn't hardly believe at the time.
Yeah. Well, every now and then I like to play some electric bass, you know. Well, actually, it's just like guitar, you know. It's just a low guitar. That's all it is, right? Because on a guitar, you know, the bass strings on a guitar, well, they're the same as a bass, you see, but only they're tuned an octave higher. So it's like playing guitar, only you're playing low.
Yeah.
See? Oh, good enough, thanks. I'm catching a slight cold, so you'll have to pardon the sound of my voice.
I think, well, the latest recordings that I've heard that you've been involved with was the Beverly Glenn Copeland album, which was incredible, you know.
Yeah, that's a great album.
Yeah.
I was really pleased to be able to work with her, you know, to be able to play with her, because she's a gas, you know. And it looked like she writes all her own material. And the chords that she plays, you know. I mean, like, look like she's an unbelievable musician and a singer, you know.
Yeah.
Because she makes up all her own tunings every time she sings a song. Look like, she'll take her guitar and she'll retune it. But she gets all these different things on it, you know. It's really beautiful. Look like, I think she's great, you know.
Have you done any other recording in Toronto for other people, sessions?
Well, I did a country album not too long ago with George Hamilton.
Oh, I saw that album.
Yeah, like he was up and looked like he was in like he was up here out in Nashville, and he wanted to do a country album with all the Canadian songs, I think.
Yeah.
You know, and so
Lightfoot stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of like we did a bunch of Lightfoot stuff. And who else was on the album? Bruce was on the album. Bruce, Coburn was on the album.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What did he play?
Well, he was playing Martin on the album.
Uh-huh.
I was playing electric. And Skippy Beckwith was on the album. You know Skippy.
Yeah.
And Brian Brown, I think, was on it. Yeah, we had a good time. It was a good session. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of recording things happening in Toronto now.
Yeah, like it's really opened up there an awful lot. Like I have a feeling that it's going to become one of the main centers to record. You know, it's going to become another Nashville type thing, I think, you know.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of good things happening, you know.
Have you recorded with Dr. Music yet?
No, I haven't. No. Like this is my first time with them on the road. But I really enjoy them, you know. Because everybody's a great, singer in their own right in that group. You know, like Diane Brooks.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I think she's beautiful. You know,
did you play on her album too?
I was on a couple tracks. I think I
Yeah.
was on a couple tracks on the album. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, Lenny.
Oh, listen, look like you're very welcome, Holger.